see if I achieved it. Well, one first thing to mention is that the title that we have used and the organizing committee has used to title this event is very ambitious. So what is the future of tropical agriculture and the forest in the Peruvian Amazon? Because we wanted to speak about the European regulation because it's important, and as Berta has mentioned, it has a great risk and excluding small producers. And our country, the production, Peru, is linked with small producers. So we wanted to mention that this connection is a risk for our country in the future. Agriculture in Peru is risky. So one of the things that we have mentioned this morning is that we need to recognize we are on the way preparing to regulations, but actually we are not there. We still have many steps to cover, many process, many coordination, many sense of urgency, but we're not there yet. So what I wanted to mention is that the spirit, the coalition for sustainable production is a spirit of proposals, and what we wanted to state is that even though the European regulation is an engine or it's a mechanism um, on how to transform tropical agriculture in our country. So we are speaking about development agenda, and as some of you mentioned, as Gustavo has mentioned, the regulations have accelerated these changes. But we have many challenges that we have been facing in the 5 different blocks. In the first block, we have spoken about a technological issue. We have talked about mapping, and I would like to highlight something that we all included. First of all, related with the need of a better coordination, we have public instruments, and we have covered the new designs and instruments from the civil society and the private sector. We needed more coordination. We need more coordination to make it urgent and to gather information quicker in terms of polygons and in terms of general information fields. Something that I would like to highlight is the necessity of generating trust. We have mentioned the mistrust that exists from the producers, and I think this is something that can be changed. The local authorities, the ministry, the authorities in general at the local level have the challenge of transmitting this information properly, and of course civil society supporting and using instruments. We have spoken about digital tools, about agro learning and carbon capture. In a second block, called traceability, the importance of traceability, I would like to highlight 2 main subjects. One, interoperability. Many instruments, fortunately in our country, we have experiences in traceability because of organic certification or fair trade, but we need interoperability, and spaces as this, the coalition, these are the spaces in which we are trying to agree to work on this interoperability. And the second point is a necessity that sometimes we do not um, take into account is the protection of the data. I think that is important, and all of this is related to the fact that we can develop mechanisms to prepare. And these 2 subjects were covered, and of course, we pass to a second next subject related to the incentives, financial and non-financial, in the block 3. And this block 3, I think that we connected with the mid to long term development agenda, and we have been speaking about the financial incentives and the importance of contests and public and national interest at Agroideas and Agrobanco. but also the necessity of defining clearly what type of actions should be funded. And there we have mentioned what type of actions increase productivity, and we are talking about risk, irrigation, or nutrition, or agro biodiversity, but also or very concrete um, factors. So it's important to connect all of these instruments, financial, public instruments, and why not private, with concrete actions that increase productivity and that are clearly in line with scale processes. Also, we spoke about non-financial incentives, for example, technical assistance, necessity of implementing certifications, and something that is important, which is juridical safety, but juridical safety that does not generate new process of deforestation that increase the risk, um, and that are detriment to competitiveness. And in block 4, well, until there we have spoken about the hard part, or but something interesting from block 4 is, and I think Fiorella mentioned this, is that it's not enough to be free from deforestation. If the European regulation or international markets are successful, this type of instruments or this type of regulatory frameworks will become a standard. So you are not competitive, you are not going to be paid a prime because of this type of measures, but it will be the standard. And what we need is to go beyond that, as, for example, the regenerative scope. It's important that the stakeholders include that. It's important to continue thinking about profitability, and at the same time that we make sure that these actions restore soils, improve carbon. And I think this is the type of bet that in Peru we should think about for the future, and to go beyond free deforestation, but also emerging subjects as circular economy or the need to incorporate the role of women and young people in these processes. And then we got to the next block, which is the landscape, a scope that sometimes is difficult to explain, difficult to understand, but connecting it with a European regulation, how do we achieve territories of low deforestation risk as the countries compete and the value chains compete, also at the local level, the provincial level, district level, the territories that have low risk or better capacity to be sustainable but also competitive. But to achieve this, we need some aspects that go beyond the supply chain. We are talking about structural pressures. We are talking about action plans. We are talking about monitoring systems and public-private governance at the local level, and then to highlight the Cote de Te, which is a sui generis action that has a mechanism, public-private mechanism, to work on the development agenda, but also in Ucayali, they are exploring how to go beyond the environmental, but to speak about sustainability agenda. And with that, I believe we have been able to cover the question in the title of our journey. And this question is related again: what is the future of agriculture and the forest in the Peruvian Amazon? And I think one first subject is the future of agriculture, and it's related to the capacity that we have, we stakeholders have, that from the producers to the public sector to face these issues. Information, transparency, incentives to bet for regenerative scope in this landscape view. And as we are in the capacity to answer together to this type of challenges, is that we will have a future in the forest. And really to wrap up the importance of the sense of urgency, we have 5 months, 4 months to the yes for the enforce and the need for more coordination. Uh, I think this is the idea in the different panels and the moderation. And so, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anya. We would like to invite Marco Antonio Mortarola, Director of Finance, for the close. I want to be brief. I want to thank the organizer of the event in behalf of the general direction that I make part of. And also from Minam, the Ministry, for the invitation to participate in this event and to provide closing remarks. The Ministry sees with very good eyes and interest this event, and the stakeholders have participated, and again, to face the challenges around implementation in these products, in this case, cocoa coffee. It is interesting. Everyone here, we make part of the governance of the productive chains, agro exporters of the Amazon, and it has been clear in this event that we have a very important role from regulations, producers on the field, people that generate technology. In this framework of stakeholders, it is important the role that the coalition has to try to structure that governance and to put aspects as to define the role of the stakeholders, articulated with transparency to provide dynamic. So we believe this is a very important challenge, and from the ministry, in summary, Fidel was very clear to state what is the role of the Ministry of Agriculture. From the Ministry of Environment, our division, we have a very important and particular role, which is the creation of instruments and policies that can promote a green economy, a economy that promotes competitiveness, but in association with the promotion of nature capital. So from our direction, we are working on series of instruments of this type, and are in line with many of the demands that we're requesting, especially in terms of economic incentives, non-financial and financial. So we are ready to be part of the dialogues and these platforms, and we are at your disposal, really, especially for the value chains. There's a project for 4 or 5 years, a GEF project, that will incorporate the understanding of what is the configuration that these incentives should have, being the different type of funds to promote the change. These are in an initial phase, but we hope that it can have a good reception and a connection with the progress of these times. Also, we have a program, Eco Business Program. It's called Eco Negocios, a program dedicated to create instruments, credit instruments for the promotion of sustainable business, among which agroforestry. So, to wrap up, we ratify our interest and our support to continue working in these spaces and to articulate or coordinate between ministries and other stakeholders that we have identified. And there is a transversal aspect that we will have to take into account and rate. Of course, thank you very much again.